Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So you guys know I've been playing Neverwinter for around a week now. It's been going pretty well. My character is getting there. I'm at like 9,500 gear score or whatever, and the system is much like World of Warcraft, where you need gear score to queue up for certain dungeons and certain raids and all the good stuff. But I've been talking a lot about the positive things about the game. Just to reiterate, the gameplay is very good. In fact, I would argue that out of all the MMOs that I've played, which is not that many, but it is the best. The combat system is a lot like Guild Wars, but I feel that it uses a lot of what Guild Wars had and just improved upon it. So there's the dodge system. The dodge system works, very, very well. The targeting system is similar to Guild Wars. It's, a little bit skill shot, but not completely. So that's really nice. And the resource management is a lot better in Guild Wars. I really hated the fact that you had to like switch weapons to cast stuff, switch weapons back with the timer. And, oh my god, I really hated that. The concept was okay, but just actually doing it was crap. And in this game, everything combat-wise is amazing. And that's why I feel that this game might actually have some kind of potential to be a very solid game. Right now in PvP, I think the latency kind of sets off a lot of things that are not so good. Basically, what I mean by that is in Neverwinter, when you're doing some PvE action, the combat feels perfect. It's very crisp because the latency is only on your side, so it's consistent. But when you're playing against other enemies in PvP, I've noticed that people just cast stuff instantly sometimes. Sometimes, they cast something, you dodge at the perfect time, it hits you anyway. So there's a lot of really quirky stuff, and I think PvP really needs to have some kind of consistent latency involved. I don't exactly know how it works, but in its current system, I don't imagine it would be in any way, shape, or form competitive. However, the PvE is pretty good. Obviously, the game being, in its early stages and it officially being released as a beta, but that's just how, games are released nowadays. I mean, you'd probably rather see an open beta release of a game rather than calling it finished and seeing what happened to games like Diablo 3. So, as a safety net, a lot of games released like this to be kind of excused that they know something is a little bit out of place. And one of those things is PvE balance. A lot of classes are very overpowered in some situations, but others are not. So with clerics with the blue shield, you can kind of absorb a tremendous amount of damage, and you can stack the blue shield with another blue shield to multiply the damage reduction. You pretty much circumvent needing a tank for your group for anything. The damage reduction is so substantial that anyone can take the hits from the monsters with the cleric shields, so they're insane. And as such, the tank roll is out. You don't need a tank for anything. Not that I've seen, at least so far. On the other hand, some DPS classes are really strong, like rogues. Rogues do insane damage and provide sun utility. Control wizards provide insane utility and do pretty good damage, and they fit the AoE role very well. But then you have like the great weapon fighters, which are kind of like neither. They don't do that good damage, and they don't really provide much support. I've heard a lot of people talking about them, oh, they can do this, they can do that, but most of what they're talking about has to do with like weapon procs, which can be on anyone. You can easily replace a great weapon fighter with another wizard, or in some cases, preferably with another rogue to do more damage as a group. So the balance is a little bit out of whack, but that's not really too bad. There's two things that I really want to talk to you guys about, at least warn you guys, because I know some of you guys, checking out the game, you watch me play it, think it's pretty good, and don't get me wrong, it is pretty good. But the main thing is the pay-to-win aspect of it. So when people talk about this, there's two sides of the argument. There's the argument, it's like, oh, it's pay-to-win, you can buy everything, anything you want for money, for Zen. And the other side of the argument is that it's like, well, that's not true, because you can, get the astral diamonds and convert it to Zen to buy the stuff for Zen, so you don't have to spend money on the game. So, in essence, more or less it is pay to win. I didn't really use this kind of analogy in Diablo 3 because there was no winning. In Diablo 3, there's no competitive, there's no hard, there was nothing. It was just flat. So there's no winning scenario, but it was pay to get a better character in Diablo 3. That's why I don't feel Diablo 3 is pay to win. But this game right now it seems like it's a little bit pay to win, because in PvP there is a competitive environment, and in PvE in the raids, some of them are actually fairly difficult. And you know, I've been told that by some of the higher level players that, you know, people haven't actually completed some of the dungeons that are still in the game, and there's like a lot that's yet to be released as far as like raids that involve like 20 plus people. So when those come into play, you have a competitive environment. When you have a competitive environment and someone can spend dollars to have, you know, an insane amount of time advantage in the game, then it is pay to win, in my book at least. So what does it mean? How does this work? Well, in the game, there are a lot of like bullshit things that you have to get by spending money. So one notable example that one of my friends let me know about is the enchants. So enchants are ridiculously good in this game. Like, you get epic gear, then you upgrade your epic gear with better epic gear, but the difference in the epic gear is very small. It's not really a big deal. But what is a huge deal is the way that you enchant and put like procs on your gear. You can put like an enchant on your weapon, for instance, that would, you know, do a tremendous amount of damage. And these enchants have ranks. So you can have like a rank 4, rank 5, rank 6, rank 7 is the max. And to get a rank 7 enchant is practically impossible without dipping into the Zen stuff, which is the real money stuff. Obviously, you can get Zen for Astral Diamonds, but, you know, obviously, if you're investing real dollars, you can get the stuff much faster than you otherwise would. So what this means is, for this particular case, these ranks of enchants go up. So if you have like, you know, a certain number of rank 6, you can merge them to get a rank 7. But there's a chance of failure in between this process of upgrading the ranks. And the chance of failure from rank 6 to rank 7, I think my friend told me that it was 99% chance of failure. So how do you pass this? Well, you get this item from the Zen shop that increases it to 100%. Easy. You know, so it's stuff like that. I'm using that as an example, but there's a lot of stuff like that in the game. You know, if someone wants to invest, you know, a decent amount of money, you know, they can get there. The problem is that in this game, the money side of things is much more valuable than the time invested in the game side of things. To give you guys another example that happened to myself, you know, I farmed PvP, and I bought the PvP gear, and I put it up on the auction house. And, you know, pretty much what I ended up getting out of it was something like, for a full day's grind of PvP, I got something like $3.50 worth of items in terms of Zen value. Okay? So, that kind of ratio is insane. But one thing to keep in mind is that when it comes to MMOs, when they become competitive, like World of Warcraft, for instance, the time investment needs to be what gives the advantage for it to be fair. Obviously, some people disagree. It's like, well, I have a real-time job. I want to play on a fair thing. Yeah, but if you can invest unlimited amount of money, that's much, much less fair. So what I mean by this is, take a look at the World of Warcraft guilds that are very competitive on the PvE scene. You know, when new content comes out, they raid for 20 hours a day. You know, that's because the time that they put into the game gives them the result, which is what they desire. But if they can put money instead of time, then it's literally pay to win. That's literally what it is. You know, it can't be any different than that. So right now, in terms of Neverwinter, the PvP side isn't really that competitive because it's mostly for fun. There's no real point in it. But yeah, you can kind of argue that it is a little bit competitive, like I've mentioned. So it is a little bit pay to win in that case. And the dungeons, you know, arguably yes or no. But what they plan to do with the game, they want to put out, like, you know, multiplayer raids, like a lot of people. And they want to have these, like, I assume, somewhat challenging. The more challenging that stuff becomes, the more pay to win the game becomes, because it drives down the competition. And that's what I feel really be the downfall of the game. The other point that, you know, I mentioned, there's 2 points that really suck about the game. I'll just keep it brief for the second one. The chat system is so fucking terrible, it just blows my mind. Like, you know, someone messages you, and to message them back, you have to, like, right-click their name every time, and, you know, every player has, like, a double name, so it's like, you know, Kripparrian at Kripparrian is so cool, hey man, how's it going? He messages you back, you have to type that shit all over again sometimes. There's like an autocomplete function. Oh my god, it's so unbelievably terrible. but hopefully that doesn't take too much to fix. I'm sure, you know, maybe in a few months down the line that'll be you know, somewhat streamlined. But on the other hand, with the pay-to-win aspect of things, I actually see that as a problem that would get worse and worse the more the game gets developed in terms of content. So these are just some things that I want you guys to be aware of when playing the game. You know, I started playing the game for fun. People were telling me the game is a pile of shit, and I think it's actually pretty good. But it's something that you guys have to really keep in mind. You know, if you're going to get really attached to the game, you have to be aware of the fact that, you know, this may not be a game for you. If you're looking for like a competitive PvE environment, do it for the fun instead. So, hopefully, you guys can get some more insight from my little spiel here today, and still enjoy the game, at least for what it is. And yeah, see you guys another day. Have a good one.